Good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of the Fredericksburg Standard-Radio Post news broadcast. I'm Sam Sutton, joined by Brent Burgess, Carrie Burgess, and Augustus Spence. First thing I want to talk about is the short-term rental ordinance topic that has been discussed at City Council recently. They've been talking about it last couple of meetings. Had some issues with code enforcement, people still getting away with some things as far as noise interruptions, trash complaints and things of that nature. So they're looking into maybe cleaning up some of the verbiage on enforcements, cleaning up some of the verbiage on what every short-term rental owner needs for their B&B, and also changing some of the permit revocation process. So keep a lookout for more coverage on that going forward. And it starts on, the story for last week's meeting starts on A1 of the newspaper, top of the page. So yeah, check that out. The next thing I wanted to talk about is chronic wasting disease. It's been recently found, it's a deer disease that's can cause some issues with deer populations for the long run. And it was recently found at a breeding facility in Doss. And so they're looking into some testing and some inspections ahead of hunting season in Doss and in Harper. And they had a Texas Farm Bureau meeting on Sunday talking a little bit about that. And you can also find coverage on that on the front page of this week's newspaper. And the next thing I want to talk about is the childcare crisis that's ongoing. You're doing a feature about that for next week. Do you want to tell the readers a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I would give a little teaser on it since it hasn't come out in the paper yet. Yeah. But yeah, basically, I was contacted by a local childcare person who owns one of the institutions here in town, and she had been approached by the mayor. They're putting together a committee. The city's putting together a committee to address the child care crisis, which for our viewers is probably not a big surprise, but just, the fact that staffing is a challenge for a lot of these facilities, and also costs are high. It's kind of in parallel to a lot of the general concerns about the Fredericksburg housing market, business market, stuff like that. So a lot of local residents are on very long wait lists with their kids to get into these places, and then spending high dollars to get their kids into these places. So it's become a situation that now needs enough attention that they're putting together this committee. So I'm still working the story out a little bit, but that'll be coming out this next week's paper, and it's good to see the city making some action steps about that. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. And on a little bit of lighter news, I had a feature in this week's paper on a woman named Lucy Bell Lott. She grew up here in Fredericksburg. She was a Heritage graduate, and she has EB, which is a skin condition, and it kind of causes some, your skin to kind of, fall away. And she's been dealing with that her whole life. And they told her originally that she was only going to live until the age of 18, and now she's in her 20s, and she is entering Cambridge University.
Wow.
So she's continuing to defy the odds. She's been in Cosmopolitan. She's been on Vogue a couple of times. She had an interview with Tom Holland to bring some awareness to her charity Deborah Foundation, which helps find a cure and find resources for people with EB. So that was pretty neat. So that story starts on D1 of the newspaper. And, I've covered her story back in 2020, but she had this recent update about going to Cambridge. And so I just kind of wanted to, keep it in everyone's minds just to, continue to root her on. So, the next thing I wanted to talk about was you've got a pretty interesting story coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm doing an article in next week's paper. We've got a woman named Leanne Rominger who's a XPT athlete that's extreme physical training, and she did a run through the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. It's called the Trans Rockies race, and it was a 6-day 120 mile run it was divided into 6 different sections, most of them about 20 miles apiece. But yeah, it was she just told me the whole story. We brought her in for an interview, and it's a really great story, really great feature. So that's going to be in the paper. Very inspiring. And then we also had there was a speaker at the Republican Women's Society, Thomas Homan. He's like the previous ICE director, and so he was there, and he was also an ICE director before then, or he was associate executive. So yeah, it was really cool. Little spiel on him too. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to that runner in the Rocky Mountains. That's pretty interesting.
Cool.
Next thing I want to talk about is sports. Gary?
Wow. Take it away, huh? Sports action, of course. Fredericksburg came off of their first district loss at home. That was last week on Friday, 21-10. Kind of a deceiving score. Being there at the whole game, it was much closer than the score indicated, but 21-10. And they scored late, Somerset did. Somerset, however, is tied for first place in district with Bernie. So Bernie, Fredericksburg, and Somerset are still kind of in the playoff hunt, if you will. Probably Bernie being the favored team, and Fredericksburg will get them in about 2 weeks. So that was our big story that we had in the paper this week. Tonight, or Friday night, it'll be Uvalde night. So Fredericksburg will be heading down there. Uvalde, of course, being affected by the tragedy down there. It's going to be a different atmosphere this year, maybe a little bit, just because of that. But the team, talking to Coach Wilder, saying that, we're going to treat this just like every game. I learned a little bit of a tidbit from him, and it was in this week's edition of the paper, on the preview section for the game with Uvalde, is that the Billies have been wearing Uvalde Coyote stickers on the back of their helmets, which I didn't know. And they made it a point not to really make it a big deal out of it. But they've been doing this all season. And so I thought that was kind of neat. And just something that the Billies have been doing to support their district partners in Uvalde. So that is big. Harper's had a tough season so far. And they're coming off a very heartbreaking loss, 22-20. We want to thank Lindy Siegel for going out there and getting photos and covering that game for us last Friday. 22-20, just a tough loss to Junction. They are going to be on the road tonight, Harper will, against Stockdale. So Harper Volleyball, meanwhile, is on a tear. They're ranked number 7, Class 2A, 32-5 on the season. That is phenomenal. I visited with Coach Lumpkins on the phone yesterday. They're playing against Bracketville tonight, Brackett High School in Bracketville. So that'll be a big game for them. And so far, Harper, the Lady Horns, have not lost a single set in district. And I'm talking 3-0 sweeps. So they haven't lost a set in their matches. So that's just amazing. And she's got a real special team out there in Harper. And then, like Gus here, he had the story on a runner, but I'm not sure I'm going to I still have to put this together. So maybe in the next week or two, you're going to read about a guy I got to meet yesterday, who did a trek on mountain bike from the Canada border to Antelope Wells, New Mexico. Wow! Spanned over almost 3,000 miles. And he did it over 60 days. Mm-hmm. It's a really neat story, and I just got some of the photos today and visited with him yesterday. So if I can get it in the next week's paper, I'll try. There's a lot going on between now and then. If not, it'll be in the following week after that. But it's going to be a pretty neat story, so I'm really excited about that. Ooh. And that's really the big story right now. In addition to volleyball, too, Fredericksburg's in a volleyball fight for the district race. They're not going to win district. Davenport will. But Fredericksburg's going to race for second place. Awesome. So we'll keep you posted.
A lot of crazy athletes out there.
A lot cool. Of talented crazy.
Yeah. So I guess I'll actually give it right back to you for weather.
Oh, yeah. Got to do the weather report. Weather-wise, we had this nice week of weather. We had temperatures in the 30s. early on in this week. 33 was the coldest temperature I saw north and east of Willow City. 34 north of Dawes, and that was earlier this week. We've warmed up again, so we're back in the middle 80s this afternoon. 80s over the weekend. We're going to feel humid out there for the weekend. It's going to go back to spring, but it's temporary, just 2 or 3 days of that. And then we're going to see another cold front come in Monday night. Big question is whether or not we're going to get rain, because I was pretty disappointed in the rain totals. We're not going to turn it away, but 1600ths is what I had in mind, and most people had about the same, maybe a tenth up to a quarter inch. So it'd be nice to get more, and our next chance will be on Monday afternoon, Monday night. Could be some severe weather with that. The setup is favorable for a few severe storms late Monday night. So we'll just watch, and then it will turn cooler and drier, and a lot of wind in the forecast this weekend.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I know some of you like to run. So it's going to be a little breezy, south winds 15 to 25, especially on Sunday. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we don't have to run in the wind, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
As long as it's behind us, pushing us.
Yeah. All right. Well, last thing I wanted to talk about was Rockin' Vine. That came out in this week's newspaper. All things fun, good life in the Texas Hill Country. We get that 4 times a year, and the cover on this is really sweet. So stories are in there are really great. Be sure to check that out. Kimberly Giles and everyone she works with does a great job on that. I think that's everything for this week's paper. Thank you guys so much for always reading, for listening, for watching our shows. And lastly, I wanted to just give a shout out to Brent on Downbeat on his recent episode with Jeremy Parsons. That guy can sing. So check that out on Spotify. It was posted yesterday afternoon. Very good podcast. Good job on that.
Thank you.
Anyways, my name is Sam Sutton, joined by Brent Burgess, Carrie Burgess, and Augustus Spence. Thank you.